administration's 4th year of wise and prudent governance, our hearts full of hope as we rebuild America together.
Yeah, right. Talk about hope.
All labor report to designated stations before curfew.
This is the real Philadelphia, 2029. For 4 years, we've been held hostage in our own city.
Making your city a safer place.
Okay, we're in London, and I've been joined by Stephen, and we're talking about Homefront: The Revolution. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, tell us a little about the story for The Revolution. It's not a direct sequel to the first game. It's a reboot. Tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so we took the concept from the original Homefront, the overarching theme, which was that of an occupied America. And we took that and then we pretty much got rid of everything else and started fresh. So we wrote our own backstory, our own history, going back all the way to the 1950s, about this alternate timeline, about how North Korea was and how America was, and how events leading up to the game set in 2029, how those events came to be. And then that leads into the story of Homefront: The Revolution.
And what can you tell us about the story without, spoilers and stuff?
I can't really tell you anything about the story because we're still to announce those details, but they are coming soon. But what I can tell you is that it's set in 2029. It's set in occupied Philadelphia, where the KPA control the city, and you play the character called Ethan Brady.
And was there a reason for that particular city choice?
Well, it has lots of historical connotations with the birth of the United States of America, so it felt like a very symbolic place to set the game when we're dealing with the themes of a guerrilla war on American soil and like the revolution, as it was, of the American people against the KPA.
So there's different parts of the game. We've been playing co-op today, but there's obviously single-player stuff as well. Can you tell us about a little bit about how the game kind of fits together?
Yeah, so the single-player story takes place and comes first, and then the resistance mode, which is our cooperative mode, that takes place after the events of the single-player story. So there is some connection narratively with the events of the resistance mode, but the single-player comes first.
Okay. In terms of the single-player, how open is the world the city of Philadelphia?
So it is an open world game. The open world is divided into zones, which I've already spoken about, which is red zones, yellow zones, and green zones, which is how the KPA have divided up the city based on what needs they have of that location or what purpose it serves. And then the zones are very open, and you can freely explore each zone. Then you move between the zones using tunnel systems, and that's how you explore the city.
Okay, and what can you tell us about the inhabitants of the city, the people that you'll be fighting side by side?
So you're a member of the Philadelphia Resistance, which is made up of civilians of Philadelphia who are rebelling against the Korean occupation, and they'll be who you deal with mostly as part of that. But you'll also deal with the citizens of Philadelphia who aren't part of the resistance, who are just trying to live a normal life under KPA occupation. And then you'll also obviously deal with the military forces of the KPA who are policing the city and who have occupied it. Those are kind of the three main groups that you interact with. Okay,
and the enemy that you're fighting... You're fighting against an occupying force. Can you tell us about how you kind of interact with that enemy? Is it just are they just like something to shoot at, or is there a bit more subtlety to it?
No, I mean the way you interact with them is obviously they are far superior in number. They have really advanced technology, and they're highly trained. And you're obviously part of a resistance group, a guerrilla fighting force. So you're not really fighting them directly all the time. You're also fighting against their occupation and for the hearts and minds of the people of Philadelphia. So you do a lot of things to subvert the KPA's rule, not just wiping them out, because you know that you'll never win that game. It's a game of numbers, and they have far more than you do. So it's not really about you engage the KPA to achieve your other objectives. Same in co-op and single player. The KPA are there as an obstacle, and they're trying to keep the peace, and you're trying to get past them, and they're like an obstacle for you. So it's not really about confronting them directly, because you don't have the resources to fight them in an open engagement. You try and deal with them in subtler ways and more stealthy approaches.
Okay, and what kind of missions will players be attempting to tackle?
So in the resistance mode, we'll have a whole bunch of missions. We're aiming to have 12 for the launch of the game, and each one has a unique narrative and gameplay theme towards it. So each one is a standalone experience which tells a small story, and gives you certain objectives to achieve, and they vary mission to mission. Each one is unique. So, for example, one of the ones you played today, Enemy at the Gates, is your team of resistance fighters is sent into one of the red zones to take out a elite KPA sniper team that's been causing the resistance a lot of trouble, and you're sent in to pinpoint their location and to take them out. One of the other missions is infiltration, where you're sent in to capture some KPA vehicles sent into one of their compounds, and you have to get into the compound, secure the vehicles, and then escort them out of the zone, defending them against KPA counterattacks.
Okay, you mentioned the mission that we played, Enemy at the Gates. You noticed at the beginning when we were playing it that there is the option to kind of go silent, to go for a kind of for a stealthier approach. Is the stealthy approach kind of aspirational? Is that something that the best co-op teams will be able to do if they've kind of collected all the gear and they work together? Is that what the stealth is for? Is to kind of drive players towards that as like the ultimate way that they can play the game?
No, we developed the missions for the resistance mode with the idea that the players will form their own strategies and complete the objectives how they feel they are best completing those objectives. So the stealthy approach is definitely one that you can do, and some of the citations we have, which are like challenges, encourage certain types of gameplay, but it's really down to the players and freedom of choice. You can do a mission stealthily, you can go all guns blazing and try and brute force your way through, you can use distraction techniques to sneak in without even trying to fight directly. So there's plenty of ways we do it, and the way you develop your character and the way you use the tools available to you depends entirely on how you want to approach the situation. We developed the missions with the idea that the best teams, when they're playing, will react on the fly, and they'll adjust their tactics accordingly based on what the current situation is, and those teams will be the ones that go on to see the most success.
And how do you scale the difficulty of the levels? Do you just kind of throw in more troops, hardier troops with better shields, or do you kind of reduce the health of the player? How do you kind of make things more challenging for the better teams?
The way we increase the challenge levels, we increase larger number of enemies. We also mix up the enemy types and the number of vehicles and patrols that you'll encounter. So on a normal playthrough, you might see the occasional Wolverine, which is escorted by a couple of normal soldiers, whereas on the hard difficulty, you might find 2 Wolverines or a convoy of other vehicles that are escorted by a numerous amount of heavy troopers and some support like snipers and stuff like that. So we play with the different enemy types we have to vary up the content. We also have the citations, which I mentioned earlier, which to achieve them, you have to complete the levels in certain ways or meet certain extra conditions, and they add an extra level of tactical depth to the mission. So if you want to earn those citations and get those accolades, you have to do certain other parameters as well as the normal objectives, and that changes how you'll play, and most often than not will increase the difficulty of the level because you're having to do additional things.
Okay. You've been working on this game for a long time, and it's been well documented that you've been through a kind of different publishers. How has that changed the game and your vision? Have you changed your vision, or are you still built on the same core pillars that you started off when you first started designing the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been the same team of developers. It's always been the Free Radical team, the guys who've got a great lineage in first-person shooter development. It's always been that team, and we've always been striving for this goal of having a spiritual successor to Homefront that does the IP justice and really shows off the alternate history. And that's always been the core theme of showing players an occupied America in a really interesting and unique way. Although the game has gone through, obviously, design iterations and there's been changes here and there, it's always been the same core gameplay experience that we've wanted to achieve. I think with the help of Deep Silver, they've really helped us and supported us to see that vision through to its conclusion.
Okay, so we're obviously getting close to launch now. What's left to do? And I mean, you're shaping up to release the beta soon. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of content we can expect from that?
So the closed beta will contain some of the levels. We haven't announced specifics yet, but it will be a similar thing to what you guys experienced today. It'll be several of the levels. You'll be able to create a new character, earn experience, buy skills, buy the crates, and get different gear. And it will be an closed experience of just a few levels, just to give people a taste, and also to get really important feedback for us, because obviously we've still got several months left. We're still polishing and developing and tweaking things, so all that feedback will be really invaluable towards finishing it and getting it ready for launch.
You announced to us earlier today that you're going to be supporting the game post-launch with free content, free DLC drops. Can you tell us a little bit about what players can expect once they've bought the game, what they're going to get like in the year afterwards?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to do at least 12 months of content support for the Resistance mode, which will include new items, new gear, new missions. We're going to increase the level cap of the player characters at some point. And we're going to be doing community weekends and special events all the way through that time, so players can take part, play with devs, earn special rewards, and that's all going to be completely free. We're not going to charge for any of the Resistance mode content. It's all going to come totally free, so the players can just get it and enjoy it.
And if the players buzz off that content, you maybe kind of look to give them paid for DLC further down the line?
It's a possibility. We haven't really nailed down anything outside of the Resistance mode content that we've already announced, but it's definitely a possibility we'll look to do more content in the future.
So there's going to be microtransactions in the game. Can you tell us very quickly what they'll entail and what they'll mean to players?
So what we're doing is we're giving players the option where if they want to buy the Resistance crates, which is the random pack that we give the items and weapons in, if they want to buy them, they can do. But it's totally optional, and the items you get are exactly the same in the crates if you bought them with the in-game currency or real-life money. We just wanted to include it as an option because we know people are sometimes like that option. We don't really push it very hard. We let the player know that they can do that if they want to, but the main honest for us is that you can get everything in the game just by playing the game. You don't have to spend any money to get anything. You can unlock everything in the game, all the items, all the gear, just by playing it. And a lot of the items are actually level locked, so you still need to play the game, gain experience, and buy the skills to level your character up to be able to use a lot of the items. So we felt like we were just giving players the option if they wanted it to.
And when's it out? On what platforms are you hitting?
So it's out on the 17th of May in the USA on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and it's out in Europe on the 20th of May on the same formats.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks to you, we have rediscovered who we are. And there's no turning back to our apathetic and misguided ways. A new day has dawned, and a brighter future beckons. And for this, we say, thank you.